This is a story about a high school-aged classic horror fan that figures out his neighbor is a vampire. Due to his status as a horror fan, he has a hard time convincing anyone in his life that there actually is a vampire there. They all think it's imagination and confirmation bias for the most part. So the first half of the movie is spent trying to convince the movie's other protagonists that the neighbor actually is a vampire. It's a simple plot device, and it's used in other movies similar to The Burbs, and I can't say I don't enjoy it. It's a fun premise, and when mixed with 80s style over-the-top acting, it becomes very enjoyable. So the main protagonist witnesses his neighbor, the vampire, kill a young woman. So it becomes an existential threat to him, considering that the vampire is literally next door. He tries explaining it to close family and friends, but he is seen as incredulous. His hero figure is a schlocky TV vampire in the vein of Vincent Price. He hosts a TV show called Fright Night, which the protagonist enjoys.
Web Anything Studio, a programmable browser that lets you do just about anything. Get it today at webanythingstudio.com.
Since no one else in his life seems to believe him, he attempts to try to approach this character, a television vampire hunter, to try to get him to help kill his neighbor. This, of course, goes over poorly considering the fact that he doesn't know this high school kid, let alone the fact that he wants him to help murder his neighbor. This rejection leaves the main protagonist on his own, so he's more or less forced to singularly identify and address the threat all on his own. His friends see this new dedication as delusion, so in order to do that, they get the host of Fright Night, who is financially in the gutter, to basically roleplay with the neighbor in order to try to shake the main protagonist of his delusion. This goes as planned until the host of Fright Night, the vampire hunter guy, sees that there is no reflection being cast by the accused vampire. Since he's an actor and not actually a vampire hunter, his reaction is to escape and pretty much ditch the kids as fast as possible to avoid any vampire-related problems. Since his friends and hero have now seen the threat for what it is and understand that the threat is real, they are now a target for the vampire. This shifts the movie into its second act, in which it's a escape the threat and address the threat type of movie. The protagonist's girlfriend winds up getting captured by the vampire and turned into a vampire, so the second half of the movie is basically rescue the damsel in distress and save the princess, like that kind of movie. They wind up, of course, killing the vampire and all of his familiars, and it's a satisfying ending. I don't have any problem with it. I enjoyed it for a 1985 schlocky, classic, goofball, horror kind of film. It's good. Like, this movie doesn't take itself too seriously. The acting is a bit over the top, and there's a lot of mugging for the camera. There's gore in this movie, but the gore is ridiculous. It's not really believable. Like, there's a scene where a vampire familiar melts into a skeletal pool of green goop and sand. It's that kind of gore. It's present, but it's there more to gross you out rather than to scare you. If you're in the mood for a goofy 80s movie with a horror theme, you can't really go wrong with this one. If I was to rate this movie, I'd have to rate it in terms of weird next-door neighbor / vampire movies. And if I did, I would rate it, let's say, 7.8 out of 10.